everybody. My name is Edwards, as Carlos has kindly introduced me. It's my pleasure to be here today talking to you and presenting on this topic. Thank you very much for this opportunity. So, as I consider my presentation, it probably fits better under reuse and recycling, but what I'll do is I'll take you briefly through it, and then if we revisit the topic this afternoon under that heading, perhaps we'll duck into it in a little bit more detail. So just a quick overview on the presentation. Myself, the UK water sector and Thames water, some of the challenges confronting the water sector as we head into the next decade, and how does recycling and reuse of potable drinking water sort of fits into this environment. So some of the things we'll cover are water resources, Thames water experience in terms of case studies and barriers to implementation, and then I'll sort of summarise. We've had a bio introduction, so I'm not going to linger on this. Suffice it to say that water industry has been very kind for me. It's taken me sort of all around the world, and so you start to get a bit of a feel for different aspects across, globally. So in terms of the UK water industry, very, very quickly, historically it used to be a government-owned business. In 1989 it was sort of privatised, and the reason being that there was a large capital investment that was required in order to meet quality standards. The company is currently privately owned, and they are largely arranged and organised in terms of large monopolies, and they're price capped and regulated by different quality and economic regulators, the Drinking Water Inspector, Ofwat, the Office of Water Trading. Our investment cycles move in sort of five-year cycles. So in terms of the UK, we have around about 10 water and wastewater companies within England and Wales, and an additional 10 that supply just water. Thames Water, which is the company that I work for, is the UK's largest water company, and is highlighted in the map there you can see. And we treat both water and wastewater for around about 13 million customers. Historically, we've worked internationally on most continents, but now we focus primarily on domestic market. So some high-level stats for you in terms of the company. You can read them there. 13 million customers, as I've mentioned, the largest in the UK. We have about just over 100 water treatment works, around about 400 wastewater treatment plants, and we have a capital investment programme across this 5 years of around about £5 million worth of investment. In terms of just challenges facing us, and I suppose they're not going to be hugely dissimilar for yourselves, they're really summarised, as I see it, into a couple of sections. Water scarcity, so linking into climate change and quality, sustainability of resources, smarter asset management, customer service around affordability, changing risk, etc. Competition is looming. But the topic of today, recycling and reuse, can have an effect on several things. So our challenge in terms of Thames is that we've got a 25-year water projection that forecasts our population increase across the region of around about 3 million people by 2040. So a significant increase. Even if you take the lower end of this projection, it's a city around about the size of Edinburgh or Birmingham that's coming into London alone at around about 1.5 million people. So, there are significant issues there. It's unlikely that we are going to be able to meet that forecast by things like restricting usage, demand management, leakage alone. It's got to be a combination of factors. So, in terms of our reuse and our strategy, you can see that we have a very intense catchment. What you can see by the bars is the bars that are depicted in red and blue that are river flows, and the red portion of those is the percentage 70%. So some of our explorations in terms of trying to unlock that around desalination, we went through a very difficult journey to try and commission our desalination plant. It started in 2004 when we put in the planning application. It was rejected. We went back and appealed that, and in 2006 we won that decision. In 2008 we started building the plant, and in 2010 it finally came to fruition. So just a quick summary on that desalination plant. It's located in Beckley, in the lower reaches of the Thames. It's rated around about 150 million litres of water a day, enough to serve around about 1 million people in North London. It implements a variety of different stages, which I'll show you briefly on the next slide, but basically adopts a UFRO recovery system, and as I say, it has around about 1 million people that is served by the plant. It's clearly an expensive plant to run by comparison to normal conventional treatment for energy reasons, for chemical consumption reasons, etc. So just a quick overview on that plant. The raw water is extracted from the lower reaches of the Thames, which uses brackish water, which is less high in saline content, and as a result there's less water to remove. We put that through balancing tanks, some lamella clarifiers, and some steel pressure sand filters. Then they move through the membrane stages of the UF and the RO membranes. Then we remineralise the water, having taken the minerals out in the RO step, and then that goes to a disinfection facility and straight to our customers. The second reference that we've got, which is in play and is currently being used, but is more of a research and exploratory model really. It's one that is taking wastewater directly and returning it Blackwater recycling plant, and we used it, or it's commissioned actually, for the Olympic Games that were held in London in 2012. We currently used wastewater that we put through treatment step, which I'll touch on in a minute, and that was used for irrigation of the ground facilities and toilet flushing. It's currently a research project, as I mentioned, in order to better understand operational costs and risk control and how the plant operates. We're looking to really sort of test public acceptability to this type of treatment, with the view that in the decades to come it will become more commonplace. So as you can see from the mimic at the bottom, basically we take wastewater straight from a sewer, we put it into a septic balancing tank, we put it through screens, we put it through a membrane bioreactor which has anoxic and aerobic sort of areas, through a UF treatment step, and through a GAC, granular activated carbon, in order to remove micropollutants, and then we chlorinate it and use it for the purposes that I've mentioned. So just penultimate slide now, just barriers really from our perspective of direct reuse and implementation. The regulation in the UK currently do not have any standards for regulatory reuse. So we're sort of moving in a bit of a blind arena. There is uncertainty and concern around certain chemicals and pharmaceuticals, endocrine disruptors, which I think the jury is still out on, and the world is trying to understand the consequences of those. So there's a little bit of nervousness about concentrating those in the catchment and processing into potable water. Clearly, water companies are legally responsible for water quality that it distributes, and one of our nervousness surrounds if we are to subsidise or pay for non-potable reuse systems that may be parallel plumbing or grey water systems, that if you get cross-contamination issues, clearly that would not be welcomed by the regulator, and the owners would be on us to then clean it up. In terms of perception, the media often confuse the difference between reuse and drinking sort of sewage. So, you know, things have to be very sensitively managed there. And education is sort of changing, and starting with children actually at school, we're finding that that is a really good avenue to explore, to bring some of our key messages and challenges to the schools, and let them take the messages home to their parents that are then sort of influenced by them. In terms of cost, nothing really that is perhaps totally surprising to you as you look down the list there. Basically, what we're saying is conventional surface water treatment is around about 5 pence or 0.05 pounds per cubic metre, but you know, as soon as you start introducing the valve technology around membranes, it clearly hikes. And we've got Becton coming in at around about 60p a cubic metre, and Old Ford, which is the Blackwater plant, at around about £1 per megalitre. So, you know, affordability and water poverty will become a key consideration as the cost of water rises. So, in summary, the sector will face significant challenges over this forthcoming decade. Water resources and how they're managed and used will be high on the global agenda, as has been talked about several times today. We have a responsibility, as I see it, to ensure that what we do today is right for tomorrow, and that we don't disadvantage future generations or store up problems for the future. The challenges are going to be the changing environment the water companies are operating in, and in the short term, Thames Water is unlikely to operate and implement the direct potable reuse. However, we will continue to sort of develop technology as it becomes more public acceptable and explore how that will fit into to our future model. A successful response to all of these challenges will require sort of different sort of solutions, including technology, customer education, as I've mentioned, financial astuteness, and an increased commercial awareness. But the one thing for sure is that water will remain central to our life.